Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
Chris Ehmke.
You're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Chris, I want to take a real quick minute at the top of the show here just to talk about a new video series we're doing on the Duramax Tuner YouTube channel. We've talked about this a little bit on the show. It's our Diesel Minute.
Okay. What does it all entail?
So really what we're doing is just doing kind of quick truck profiles. Okay. So we're grabbing all sorts of different vehicles, Duramax, Cummins, Power Stroke, we don't care, and all sorts of different horsepower builds. So we recently just published one on that 2009 F-250 that we talked about last week.
Okay.
Tim Mahoney's truck, that's 570 horsepower, tune-only performance.
2019. You said
2019.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, my bad.
Sorry, my bad. And then, of course, we also have the 800 horsepower 2006 Cummins that we've been kicking some ass with here lately as well. Mm-hmm. So these are just quick videos. We figured you guys would like to just see a little bit more about the trucks and the stuff that we build here and stuff that we kind of get our hands on. So we'll be bringing you company trucks, employee trucks, customer trucks, pretty much anything we can. So keep an eye out for that stuff.
Look forward to that. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. One of the other things that I've really enjoyed doing is putting together our Exergy Performance diesel stories. Now, these are kind of what I call conglomerate stories. So a lot of little truths put all into one fictional story. So this week I got one here.
So this is the real, like, asking for a friend.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Okay. Well played. I tow a car trailer all over the country. Putting on 40 to 60,000 miles a year is totally normal to me. Over the last 5 years, I've gone through 3 trucks, a VP44 Cummins, a third-gen Cummins, and now I just got a 2018 F450.
This dude's on the come up.
The new truck is a dream. It has every new doodad and gadget they could fit in there. Feels like I'm piloting a spaceship more than driving a diesel, and it's quiet. Almost too quiet if you ask me. I miss the clattering sound of diesel combustion as the RPMs start to sing along with the classic turbocharger whistle. The new truck does more than just look pretty, though. We've upgraded to a 3-place trailer this year and got bigger truck to go along with it. In the past, even with the smaller trailers and less weight behind us, trucks would struggle coming through places like Arizona, Colorado, and even out east around Georgia. I would really push the truck to their limits as we're climbing through those really hot, high elevation, hard grades. Nowadays, I actually watch the road instead of my gauges as we're climbing the big grade. Stopping is easier, taking off is easier. Hell, even backing up to the gooseneck is easier. But for some reason, I still miss my old Cummins. There's literally no reason for this. The F450 is better in every single measurable way. Power, torque, comfort, reliability, everything is better. But I long for the feeling of my old truck. The noise, the smell, the panic of towing over a mountaintop and wondering if it's going to make it or going to blow up. Is this nostalgia? Is this insanity? Why would I ever want to spend countless hours, days, weeks, hell, months of my life in a truck that's inferior in every single way? So Chris, I put this story together after thinking about a few guys that we actually have talked to here in the shop. And I know you're smiling right now as we've gone through this. We get guys who get into these brand new trucks that have every single upgrade on earth, and they fall back into talking about their old truck.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think even for me, I've been around diesel for a long time, but man, I still just have a hard time understanding, like, what is it that draws people back to those old Cummins as they were driving around with them?
I think if you were to ask me that, I mean, me and Nick Pregnants have had this conversation a couple times. You know, you always think of, you know, that vehicle or that thing that got you involved in, you know, what you do in a day-to-day now, right? In vague, broad terms. For myself, you know, I mean, an older second-gen Dodge, if you see a nice one going down the road or you hear one, you know, you kind of, you know, shake your head. You're like, damn, that's nice. You know, years ago, you know, growing up, you know, my dad would always look at like the early 80s Cadillacs, you know, and stuff like that. And I never understood why he liked those years. Like, he liked the newer stuff, you know, don't get him
That's
wrong.
a hideous segment of Cadillac.
Exactly. But that was the era that he had and grew up with, you know.
Sure.
So, well, not grew up with, but he had at that time. You know, now, you know, us approaching or exceeding our 30s, growing up in an area myself, like around water and being around boats, growing up, now I'm starting to get some interest in boats, and I always find the late 90s and early 2000s era of boats in offshore world, speedboats, those are the boats that I'm into.
Yeah.
So I was actually just having this conversation with my dad the other day, and it's like, pricing's a big thing. Older boats are still very expensive depending on, motors and setups and things like that. Very, very, very expensive.
Yeah.
But, it's just the look. It's that nostalgic look.
There is. It's almost like whatever I liked when I was 8 years old, that's what I'm going to love forever.
Yeah, exactly. And, going to this, I driving, R450 around and having, access to other vehicles and owning other vehicles in the past, everything kind of has a spot. Would I want to tow 18,000, 15,000 pounds in a second-gen Dodge? Not a shot in hell.
Not anymore.
A third-gen Dodge, it can definitely do it a little bit better, but is it going to feel, and not necessarily just pulling, right?
Right.
We're talking about how heavy do you have to apply the throttle? How does the braking system work? How aggressive do you have to get on the brakes to slow down? How much does the coolant temperature spike in between going, getting in the motion and getting that load up and going versus when it plateaus and levels off and you're maintaining speed going down the freeway? As technology advances, you don't have that erratic idle or that, that diesel fume smell, which I don't miss, by the way, whatsoever.
Right.
But it's crazy to me to see how far and how advanced technology has gotten, cost of the vehicles, the whole 9 yards. And then you're sitting there driving this new truck, but you're breaking your neck at the 15, 20-year-old truck. So, they all have their place.
Yeah, so there is something to it, right? Awesome, man. Well, hey, I think this one will really pique up your interest here, guys. So this is the WC Fab from Facebook segment. Big shout out to the guys over at Worley Custom Fabrication for always being a good sponsor here. I got a message, and I believe this came through on the Diesel Performance Podcast Q&A Facebook group, which I have yet to rename. Hey, if you guys got suggestions for what we should rename that group, message them over to us. I need help with that.
Paul needs a lot of help, trust me.
All right, this is from Garrett Bravo. Guys, love the podcast. I know Chris likes bullet points, so I tried to make it easy to read. It's literally almost the whole thing's in bullet points.
Garrett, man, you're looking out, dude. I appreciate that.
He gives me a little side note here. He says, also, I've listened to every single podcast and am a mechanical engineer if that saves any time. Probably saves us a lot of time.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to order injectors and an S400 overstock setup matched together. With the info above, what is a good match of injector size and S400 turbo? I'm guessing 30% over injectors and an S475, S471, or S472 SXE. What would be the right size turbo and AR for a G56 truck on 35s with 342 gears? Money matters, so really don't want to pay the extra cash for the 472 SXE unless it's really the best turbo for the application. Again, I don't want more than 650 horsepower, and also I don't want to spin the truck above 3,000 RPM in order to light a big atmospheric turbo. Here's the truck, 0659 G56 4-door short bed 4x4 on 35s and re-geared to 342, 135,000 original miles. Mods, got a fleece lift pump, South Bend clutch, cold air, 5-inch exhaust, ATS intake elbow, some EFI live tunes, and looks like planning on building his own in the future. Truck is used as a weekend driver, road trips, tows medium-sized camp trailer to the desert, hauls my Toyota rock crawler. End state. Love this. 650 horsepower, will only dyno once to print and frame the dyno ticket. I just love that. Keep stock CP3 until it is worn out. Go anywhere, do anything, fun truck. Plan on keeping it forever.
Awesome. And then just So a couple things that I'd touch on, if I was on the phone with Garrett. Number one, the stock CP3 is going to hinder you there's a difference between making 650 horsepower on a dyno to chase a number versus, really making a bulletproof 650 horse number that, even on the stingiest of dynos, the truck is going to be able to support that.
Sure.
The stock CP3, wanting to maintain that as long as possible, that's going to be a limiting factor. I have seen stock CP3 support this on like our dyno here in-house. But to really hit that targeted 650 number, we're probably going to have to do something in the injection pump
don't we
realm.
usually run out of pump before injectors on these 5.9s?
No, I mean, we've seen on Jim Brennan's truck, he made 650.
Yeah.
He had a 50 horse injector with a stock CP3 pump and a Stealth 64.
Okay.
So it's achievable, but 130,000 mile truck. That pump has fuel gone through it. You don't know how the quality of that fuel, the health of the pump. The pump can hold and maintain rail pressure beautifully now, but once you really start leaning on the injection on time and really start leaning on getting that truck to achieve 600 plus, that's where things are going to get a little sticky.
Yeah.
So with that, if the target is 650, pump and injector is going to have to be replaced. If you wanted to, back that down 50 horsepower, I mean, the difference between 6 and 650, let's face it, there's not much there. You could get away with a stock injector, do 600 and just need to do the fuel or
especially
the air to back it up.
Especially if you're budget conscious.
Exactly. And the thing for me is, I don't think we need to get into injectors right now. Let's get the air side squared away. That way you can grow into that when the
feel what
injectors
600 horsepower
replaced.
is.
Correct. Exactly. As far as turbocharger selection goes, I mean, I would be cost sensitive as well. I would say if you could find a 471 for the right price, that is more than enough airflow to support that power number. But I would run a tighter exhaust housing. I'd go with like a 115 housing, which is not standard. The 132 AR is standard, but the 115 is becoming very popular and it's very cost effective.
I mean, I've driven stock fuel trucks with a 475 stocker kit, and it drives great. I mean, it gives you everything you want. What would be the benefit of going to the 471? Is there enough of a cost difference there to make it worth it?
I don't think so. I think it's just what you can get your hands on right away, to be completely honest. Both turbochargers are going to suffice at that 650 power number.
Yeah.
I believe, on like the 15 Ram, that's technically a 71 millimeter inducer.
Right.
And that will do 700 horsepower. So, you don't... Whether it's a 75, a 71, it's not going to matter. I would not recommend investing the money into a 72 SXE.
No.
The cost is not worth what you're going to spend versus what you're going to gain.
Yeah, the only time I think I would recommend that turbo, I think, is we were talking about big singles the other day.
Yeah. Well, that's a different
If you want to run a
application.
big single, I think that's more the line I would walk somebody down. But for a twin kit, I'm right there with you.
If you were to do a
think there's any
475 or a
benefit.
471 with piping, you're going to be into the kit for around $3,000. If you were to tag an SXE into that, you just bumped up another $1,500. It's just it doesn't make sense. The one thing in which I would recommend the 75 over the 71 is sometimes you just want a little more. Right? And he hasn't replaced injectors or pump yet. The cost difference between a 71 and a 75, there's nothing. We're talking pennies on the dollar. So if it was me and I was speccing it out, I would just go right into a 75, knowing that the 75 stock kit with a 1.5 housing with proper fueling will do 750 wheel horsepower.
Right.
Again, you don't want that right now, and I'm not saying you're going to, but right now is the time that you need to make the purchase, and we have to be cautious in the money that's being spent. Do it now. That way you don't have to sell a used turbo, lose your ass, buy a new turbocharger. The 71 to 75, there's no piping modifications that would generally take place, but it's more or less like the headache of having to sell a used turbo and dealing with that, and then buying a new turbo, having it powder coated to match, and the disassembly and reassembly. So I would just go with 475, 1.5 housing, call it a day. As far as pump and injectors, again, this is where things get really screwy because you could throw like a 30% over. If the stock pump is healthy, you'll get closer to that 650 number.
I don't know. On price difference, though, I might even tell him just grab the 100 horsepower from Bosch.
Oh, well, if me and Garrett were having a conversation directly, I would be coaching him a little differently.
Yeah.
They don't do Bosch Motorsport 100 horse. Oh, it's a 5.9. So we could do the Bosch Motorsport 100 horse injector, brand new per Exergy. They work well, phenomenal. They're very nice to calibrate.
More than enough injector.
Very efficient, more than enough injector. It's a 700 horse injector. I don't think I would be recommending like a 50 horse. I would a little bit more.
Yeah.
Kind of scale things back.
I don't like to lean on the edge of something.
No.
Right?
No.
We like to know that we left a little bit of wiggle room from up top.
Yeah.
So.
And, then everything kind of comes down the pump. So, Garrett, if you have any questions, feel free, message me direct, call me. My extension over at the shop's 2121, 815-568-7920.
God, shameless plug there.
Yeah. And I would be more than happy to go more in depth with you in regards to the build and things that I've seen in the past. But I think you're on a really good path, and you have a really nice, modest goal in mind for a very reliable, fun driving truck. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, hey, guys, I know usually the part of the show you're the most excited to hear is going to be our special guest. And our special guest always presented by Calibrated Power. Of course, they're the home of where we work. Today we have a not-so-special guest. And I say that not because you aren't special, Chris, but because it's Chris Ehmke, and you guys hear him talk every week.
Yeah.
So Chris Ehmke, how the hell are you, bud?
Man, today's been a day.
Yeah.
My workload is a little bit more over the top than usual.
Well, you've been cutting out of work early.
I have been cutting out of work early, and that's starting to, build up.
Yeah.
So a lot of emails, a lot of messages back. So any of our listeners, if I deal with you on a day-to-day basis, I'm sorry. I'm like a 24-hour turnaround on emails right now. I'm sorry. I'm doing what I can. But I've been jetting out, taking like third days, half days type thing for what we got going on over at the shop. So
because we're going sled pulling. It's goddamn sled pull season.
5 years I've been here, over 5 years. Been around sled pulling for about 9. Never hooked to a trailer before. Seen it for years. Never
They're called
really
a
been my
sled,
thing.
not a trailer.
Yeah, same thing.
I know
And,
you're still learning.
And I've had the luxury of getting involved firsthand now.
So the 06 Cummins, the 800 horsepower 06 Cummins that we did the diesel minute on, you're piloting this thing. You and one of our tuners.
Yeah, so
sharing the responsibility.
When a little background, we kind of talked about it in a prior podcast. You and I, Paul and I, a couple other guys at the shop, we kind of pre-planned what does sled pull season look like this year for 2019. And Timmy and I decided that we could co-pilot the white 06. He took it out for one of the first events, and he's been out of town. Me and him kind of discussed things, so I will be piloting the truck the rest of the season, or as many pulls as we have left.
Yeah.
So
we are so organized that we decided let's get into sled pull season 25% of the way through it.
Yeah. Though the first 25% starts at the beginning of the year. We didn't start this process until literally the end of May, beginning of June.
Yeah. July 31st was our first pull.
Yeah, July 31st was our first pull, and it's been 100 miles an hour ever since.
Yeah. So we've been doing some long nights. I got to do a long night with you the other day in Milledgeville. We got some videos on all the pulls, guys. Guys, go and check them out. They're going to be on Duramax Tuners YouTube channel and, of course, on the Facebook page. And I know also on the Instagram feed. But Chris, the truck has been kicking ass.
Yeah,
Timmy pulled the first place in it. He had a technical difficulty.
And the second pull.
And then everything you've pulled, the 3 pulls you've done, all first places.
Yeah. The truck, we've advertised and we've made it, publicly known that the truck itself has made over 800 wheel horsepower.
Yeah.
I am not operating the truck at that power level. We are trying some different wastegate settings, trying some different tune strategy and things like that. But the truck has been at a lower 700 horse number all season so far. The truck, I'm learning. I don't want to be in a truck that's more power than what I need for the class.
Sure.
And I want to get my feet wet. Like I said, I've done one sled pull one time 2 years ago in a 500 horse LML at our local fair, and it wasn't much. The track really wasn't prepped. It was like sand, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm dealing with guys in our area who the Tordai brothers, Drew and Joey. They've been on the podcast in the past. Last year they did 28 hooks.
Yeah.
Like these are like
Joe Tordai won our Stell Shootout last year.
Last year. Like, the kids don't fuck around. They are impressive. They have a dedicated semi-trailer and truck that they haul 2 trucks with at every pull. They're traveling, out of state to go to shows or to go to pulls now. Like, in myself going in there, like, I've been to these things, but never operated firsthand. It's much different than the drag racing and that type of stuff that I have a little bit more experience with.
Right.
You get one hook one time, you either bring it or you don't. And I get really bad anxiety, and I get very nervous when I'm in front of a crowd of people. All eyes are on you, and you're the one backing up to the trailer or to the sled. You're the one staging the sled. You're the one launching the truck, and finger could be pointed and you could be laughed at, and that's literally what's going through my mind as I'm getting prepared for this. So
I really got to stop doing that to you while I'm holding the camera.
Yeah. So everyone that's been in the work stock class for ISP this year, they've been very welcoming. Helping me, giving some tips.
What a great group of guys.
Honestly, like,
no lie, man.
Well, when we were in Milledgeville, so to put it into perspective, everyone has a job, everyone's working, everyone's busting ass to make it to these sled pulls. That event for us was over 2 hours away.
Yeah.
You and I worked all day. We literally left work at about an hour and a half early.
Well, an hour. Yeah.
An hour. And, we jetted, over, roughly 100 miles one way, to get to this pole. And, some common faces, that we've seen in the past, some familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces. And we're getting all ready to weigh in, and everyone's, getting the truck on the scale, this and that. And everyone just came together as one big group. And, I come from, a background of, if you're going to compete, it's like, yo, fuck that guy. Like, you're going to beat that guy. Like, he is not as good as you. And we're getting in the truck, and I kind of have my head down. Everyone's like, man, good luck, hope you do a good pull, this and that. And it's just like, that is a breath of fresh air.
Put on a show.
Yeah.
That's what I heard everybody say, let's just put on a show.
And then after the pull, they come up like, dude, that was a badass pull. You did so good, blah, blah, blah. And, you did a good job as well. And, the track, you start critiquing the track and what the track looked like. And everyone, towards the end of the pack, their eyes are watching every truck. And, okay, well, where are the imperfections in the track? How was the track prepped? And these are things, for years being around this, I never really paid attention nor gave a shit. I always heard references.
I always made fun of the guys walking around with sticks poking the track. I'm like, come on, bro.
There's a real thing.
No, it's legit.
And like, for myself, 3 pulls over the last week and a half, and every time I have approached the launching of the truck a little differently, and it has paid in favor to me. But just for someone to sit there and say it's boring, you sit there, you hit the brake, you stage the truck, and you just floor it, that is so far from the truth, it's not even funny.
I don't know why you got to quote me on the podcast.
I'm just joking.
Like, I'm just joking.
There is, do you leave hard? Do you leave soft? Do you leave hard? Do you go half throttle? Do you go full throttle? How far do you go until you apply full throttle? Are you gaining traction or are you not? In a Cummins, we have a converter lockup switch. So making sure that the truck revs out of first into second, the minute it hits second, locking up the converter. Last night we had an issue where, the track had a couple ripples, I would say, around the 150 foot mark, and the truck started moving back and forth, up and down, getting wheel hop.
Yeah.
And I just kept looking at turbo boost on the edge and vehicle speed, turbo boost on the edge, vehicle speed. And I didn't lose boost and I didn't lose vehicle speed, so I didn't get out of it. If I was going to start losing something, I would have backed out of it, and it worked in my favor.
Yeah.
But so much to learn. It's such a really, really, really good experience. And, talking to the guys, and they're like, oh, how long you been doing this, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, last Saturday was my first hook. This is my second. They're like,
I thought that kid was going to spit right on your shoes. Yeah, for real.
It's been a lot of fun. Everyone's very accommodating, so I'm very, very I'm pleased. I'm very blessed to have people like that, that are willing to welcome us.
That's great, man. Yeah, no, it has. The crowd has been great. The group of guys that we pull with Illini State pullers have just been awesome. They've been so much fun to hang out in the pits. Because like you mentioned, Milledgeville, yeah, so we drove 2 hours down there. We checked in, with 15 minutes late, no big deal. Yeah. And then we stood around for 3 hours.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and what do you do? Because sure, you and I know each other. There's one or two other guys we know that go to all these pulls. But we just hung out with all of the other work stock guys, and it was really cool to hear about some of their builds, hear about what some of them are doing, and seeing guys who honestly at the end of the track, one of the things I was really shocked about, 550 horsepower truck, 700 horsepower truck, a foot and a half away from each other at the end of the track.
Yeah, I'm going to dive into something here. Justin Tyson, one of our media guys, he posted something that ISP had shared in regards to the shootout, and the shootout is something that Calibrated Power did sponsor, and the truck, the white Ram, did make it to those events, is our scheduled plan. And yes, piloting the truck, we had won that, right? This isn't a shop sponsored truck. This is a truck that, has components that anyone could buy off the shelf. This is a legal turbocharger, legal fuel system, the whole 9 yards. With a driver that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, right? This isn't some professional driver that's been doing this for years. I'm lucky to turn on my turning signal and turn on the main road properly. So it's just it's one of those things where we have some guys where they are true professionals and they know exactly what to do and when to do it. They have guys like myself who, I'm not going to lie, I don't.
Winging it.
I'm here. I'm trying to have fun. I want to enjoy it.
Well, what I thought was cool, Chris, was that we got a quick rundown from Nick, somebody who has a lot of sled pull experience, and we went through some instructions, and I heard at the track the first couple of nights, you guys all talking to each other, because we have 3 drivers. So it's you, we've had on Joe Hager, and then we also have Mike Gutschell piloting his LML. So we have kind of a crew there and a couple of trucks in the class that, again, we can go as a team, and we really like that atmosphere and that mentality of going to do it like that. But I heard you guys, while we were lined up, while the first truck was pulling, asking each other, okay, what's your run-through process?
Yep.
Like when you get into the truck and you pull back up to the sled, what do you do next? Walk our listeners through it, man. Like what do you do when you go sled pulling this thing?
So I think the main thing, a lot of these guys, it's their personal trucks, it's this, it's that. For myself, if I come back and I did something very foolish, like I have Nick in my back ear, like, what the fuck were you thinking? Why did this happen? So that's first and foremost. Like he's like father figure to me, big brother figure to me. So like I don't want to deal with that. You get in the truck and right away my nerves are starting to get a little, on edge.
Yeah.
Right away 4-wheel low. So before I even put it in drive, the truck started 4-wheel low. I let the truck idle for about 15, 20 minutes prior just to get coolant temps up, get the oil, worked in,
Sure.
I don't want to run a cold engine. So 4 low. OD off, so tow haul, OD off, so that's all done. Deep breaths, a lot of deep breaths. Like at that point, like my anxiety, I'm not gonna lie, last night I was literally about to say I don't want to do this, have someone else drive. Like that, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I know, a lot of people that I don't know, a lot of people that I hope I don't get to meet. But it's just it's one of those things where my nerves and my anxiety do get the best of me, and I feel like as I get older, it gets a little worse. But whatever. So then it was 2 trucks, and then it was 1 truck, and then Joe Hager, and then me. So I was third in the mix, I just calmed down watching Joe. Joe has a 2017, L5P, pretty much stock truck. It's tuned in traction bars, and he's been fucking killing it.
Yeah.
Every pull too.
That truck looks good at the pull.
It does. That is for an emissions on truck that is no crowd favorite because it's not loud, doesn't blow smoke. It's recognized, and it is a favorite amongst the crew there. So that happens. I wait to get the signal to pull in. I pull in, back up, get set up. Get tension on the chain, right? And then I get the green flag. Now it's game on, baby. Hit the brake, start applying boost. First pull, I left on 10 pounds. Tires didn't spin. I didn't pull over 300 feet. I think I pulled like 280 some feet, which was good for first place. I put about 4.5 feet on guy in second place.
Yeah.
Come to find out, the guy in second place has a lot more turbo. The truck's making more power, like simple as that, right? So that tells me that the suspension and things like that are set up, or that the calibration is operating in an efficient manner in our benefit, right?
Right.
Second pull, after talking to colleagues here and whatnot, you got to leave harder. And then touching base and thinking of old videos of Tyler Franzen last year with Project Connect. So I left on the second pull, I left on like 14 pounds, right? The truck started pushing through the brake. That was Milledgeville. Pulled 310 there, put, I want to say like 8 feet.
It was something like that.
On second place. And again, I'm not changing the tune-up. Nothing's changed in that perspective. This is just me launching the truck and running the truck. Last night was a little different. Last night I had left the truck on about 18 pounds, let off the brake, tires just started spinning, right? And like it was violent, just as it went. And I was able to maintain 25 mile an hour at Milledgeville. Last night was about 26. And yesterday at 26 mile an hour, I was able to pull a 320 foot. Pull. Now, the gentleman that came in second place was the same gentleman that came to second place with me on Milledgeville.
Okay.
And he pulled, I want to say it was like a 302-ish, and he pulled 304, 306 or something like that. I'm sorry, a 312, because there was about 9 feet, 8 9 feet last night difference as well. So just the different launching, like that's everything. And then
Well, I think it's funny we talk about that, right? Because some of those places we had a really wet, sticky, red dirt clay kind of track. And then when we get into that drier stuff, like you were talking about McHenry County in the past and some other places we've been where it's that real dry and dusty, you're just not going to be able to leave as hard.
Right.
If you spin off the gate, you're not going to pass the 250 mark. But yeah, man, when we know that track is sticky and we know that we're going to get traction, let her go. Yeah. Launch it a little harder. That seems to be paying off. And I think it's interesting that this has given us the opportunity to test some of the theories we've heard guys talk about because we hear I need more RPM. I mean, every time spring rolls around, we all laugh about who's going to get the first sled puller who wants 5,000 RPM in his Duramax. Like, your S300's never going to need that RPM.
And I think one of the things that's really crazy to me is, like the work stock class this year, like they're not very big advocates on teching.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of guys not willing to pop their hoods. I had popped the hood yesterday when we were at Boone County, which Belvedere, Illinois, and guys are looking, scratching their head. They're like, "What what is?" Like, there's there's nothing impressive. Like, hopefully we can just have the hood popped, for the intro to this thing, like to this podcast, because like it is a bone stock looking motor with head studs. Like, it's just, there's nothing there impressive.
Absolutely.
It's impressive that it does what it does. It's not impressive the way it looks. But no, like I said, I mean, it allows me to, come in tune a little bit more when I have guys call in talking about sled pulling. I was able to regurgitate information on that. Drag racing, I had some, experience in driving trucks on a daily basis, towing, definitely. But sled pulling, been around it, never done it firsthand. So it's been a real treat for me.
It's awesome. Well, Chris, thank you so much for jumping in here, talking to our listeners a little bit about kind of what it feels like to be out there sled pulling. Any advice you would give to somebody who's thinking about making one of these last probably 4 or 5 pulls of the year?
Do it. Don't think about it. Don't just go out there and try it. Don't be afraid. If you don't do well the first couple times, it is an adrenaline rush like anything I've ever experienced. You got to try it once or twice at least. And I honestly, I can see where the addiction comes in. Like, it's fun. I'm looking forward to going to these now. Like, it's a ton of fun. So, and also do some research. There are some supporting modifications that you should probably do to the truck suspension-wise. Some simple, cheaper modifications just to ensure that you don't have any failures take place if you hit, a spot in the ground where the truck starts getting wheel hop and the sled actually hits the truck. Yeah. That could potentially happen.
Bump stops
sled
are
stops,
cheap. Yeah.
Bump stops, things like that. So things like that, but I would honestly encourage anyone to at least give it a try.
I love it. Good stuff, man. Well, thank you so much, Chris, and thanks for listening. This has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Ehmke.
Have a great day. I know Chris likes bullet points, so I tried to make it easy to read. Garrett, it's literally almost the whole thing's in bullet points.
Garrett, man, you're looking out, dude. I appreciate that.